Okay, we live.
Nice.
What's up, Jacob? How are you, my brother?
Oh man, living life, loving it, doing
Yeah,
well. How are you, man?
I'm sticking and moving. I'm staying happy. I'm choosing to stay positive,
Come on.
and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But for those that don't know, everybody knows that we do Black Guns Matter. We do the gun stuff, snipers, paramedics, helicopter dudes. But I think sometimes that is kind of like overplayed. I think that generally the people that do things that have more of a spiritual foundation and the everyday things like my sniper dudes, like they're not out sniping bad guys every day, they're just not. But the person that is on a mission to serve others is on that mission every single day. So I thought it would be very, very cool to have you on. Let my following know who you are, what you create, what awesome platform you've created, and things of that nature. So can you introduce yourself to the folks? Let them know who you are, and we're gonna get into your story.
Yeah, man. Well, definitely appreciate you having me on to talk. Also love seeing your journey and so grateful for you using GiveSendGo as a fundraising platform. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been awesome to see. But a little bit about myself and my journey, who I am, who GiveSendGo is. I'm just a child of a blue collar family. I grew up in New
Mm,
Hampshire. I'm one of
mhm.
12 children, large family dynamic, six boys and six girls. I was kind of, let's say, lost in the middle of the pack. I was number five in the shuffle and grew up with parents that instilled in us the value of hard work. My dad owned a tree company, so he cut trees down for
Mm,
people and just worked really hard to grow that business from nothing to a good business that provided for our family.
yeah.
Um, Showed the value of hard work and exemplified um, good spiritual values, a good
Mm,
foundation. We'd go to church every single week, maybe multiple times a week. So I grew up with a heavy emphasis in my life on the Christian faith. My parents
mm,
exemplified those values to me, and I actually thought for a while I was going to be a pastor. I,
mm.
I went to church. I mean, I went to Bible college for several years, thinking that that was the journey that my life was headed, and couple stumbling blocks and roadblocks as we all hit in life, and they kind of detoured me. And I wouldn't say detoured in a bad way. They brought me on a different path, and I ended up joining the military. I
Yeah.
was in the military right after 9/11 and did some time on an aircraft carrier. I was a cryptologist in Intel, and I actually served. Yeah,
What?
yeah,
Wait, what?
yeah. I was Intel. I was spying on the bad guys. So
Jacob, you can't wait. You can't just gloss over that word, cryptologist. What is a
yeah.
cryptologist?
So it harkens back to the days in World War II and the Enigma machine and the transmission of messages that were encoded and trying to break those codes and look into the transmissions of your enemy's adversaries as you are engaging in various forms of warfare against them. And as it evolved over the years, it became broader scoped to include more and more types of emissions. So it wasn't just broadcasts and decoding. It was radar signatures. It was various types of signal intelligence. It was satellite uh, tracking of foreign
Mm,
adversaries. And so
mm,
the 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 work field that I was in as a cryptologist was broken up in a couple different segments, and I was at cryptological technician, which I actually operated the machinery, and my main role was to recognize the threats that were in the theater of our aircraft carrier group as we were deployed on mission. So we could see within our local theater, 30, 50 mile radius around our battle group, who the enemies were, what weapon systems that they had that could potentially be used against us. And then we did have access to top secret systems that allowed us to see beyond our theater via satellite, and we could look at our enemies at a longer range, track them. We were making or observing patterns and
Mm,
making analysis off of the things that they did, and then providing that intel to our other ground troops and our aircraft as they're flying and needing to take out various targets. We'd provide the intel to them on what they should be doing, where they should be going, what they needed to take out, various things. So we were the first battle group there after 2000 in 2002, 2003 with the invasion into Iraq, the shock and awe campaign, and I had joined just because I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. I had been a wrestler. I was very physically active,
hmm.
and got got into that job field, and we were there. It was just kind of like riding along with the reality of how the world was changing, and got to see some amazing things. Got to visit some amazing countries. Just experience the world from a whole new perspective. And I did 5 years. The Navy, unfortunately, it's the needs of the Navy above all else. And I
Mm.
wanted to do the SEAL program. I got accepted into BUDS uh, after putting a request in with my chain of command to apply. Got accepted, passed my entrance tests, and then my chain of command said, "Hey, we don't want to let you go, so we're not going to release you to them." So,
Yo, it's crazy. This is crazy story. This reminds me of a story with my grandmother. My
mm,
grandmother, when she moved from down south to Philadelphia, she worked at this place called the Asher's Candy Factory.
okay.
And like, remember that episode of like I Love Lucy, where Lucy and her homegirl is like the candies going down the conveyor belt? My grandmother had to wrap the candy up
Okay.
individually, then put it in the thing as it's going down the conveyor belt. And she was good at this job. She was so good at it, they had to keep it cold in this place. She wound up getting arthritis in her shoulders and hands because it's
Mm,
chocolate, right? She was at this job for over a decade, just candy, chocolate. And she wanted to move up and she wanted to go into banking. And
wow.
she knew that the guy was not going to give her a job. She was qualified, she meaning the boss, the owner of the company. And she went to go to this bank. The bank is defunct now. It was called Atlantic Financial. And she
Okay.
went there and said, I want to go in as an entry level position, maybe even a teller, whatever. She said, but my boss is not going to give me a good recommendation. And the person, and I remember this because she came home and told us.
Mm.
The guy said, he said, why wouldn't he give you? You've been here for over 10 years. Why wouldn't he give you a good recommendation? She said, I'm that good of a worker that he's not going to want to let me go. And the guy looked at my grandmother. This is a true story she told me. He calls the guy on the phone right there and says, hey, we have, Miss McCrae. She wants to, we're looking at her resume. We're thinking about hiring her. And the guy said, oh, no, she's the worst worker I ever had in my life. And
That's how it rolls. Yeah.
right. And he said, well, if she was the worst worker you ever had, how's she been here for 10 years? And he
Right.
started
Right.
stuttering and bumbling, and the guy hung the phone up and hired my grandmother right on the spot. So that what we want
That's it.
more than what your individual, even though you put your time in and you're an asset, you could be an asset somewhere else. Their argument is still no.
Yeah. No, it's
How
shooting
did you take
yourself.
that?
It's very. Yeah. It's very short sighted. Oh, I was very upset. I mean, just to get into the buds program, you really have to you go through a whole battery of tests, psychological tests, physical tests. You got to do a whole lot of stuff. Several, 4 to 5 months of just training physically. I was already in decent shape, but I'm a guy that strives for excellence, and so I was working really hard. I put a lot of time and effort, and I'd actually you have to request from your chain of command to even start the process. So I put my request in and they approved it. I don't know what
Mm,
they were thinking. They approved it, that they were thinking that I wasn't going to pass or something. It was just weird because I I mean I was obviously going to pass. I was a stellar Navy guy for them and was doing a lot of great stuff. And I think there's so many different agendas, even between the chains of command. So you've got your immediate chain of command, and then you have your like the greater chain of command, and they all have different desires in their outcomes based
Yeah.
upon
Yeah.
manning, and there's so many different needs that they have going on. So for me, at that point, I was near the end of my 5 year enlistment, and I said, you know what, I've got a lot of other things happening in my life, and so I guess this is just my signal to get out.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I moved on and was stationed down in Virginia. So I lived in Virginia for a long time.
So how did the switch go from I'm a cryptologist, we can track you, I'm admitted to Buds, to folks that don't know, Buds is the beginning stages of becoming the SEAL where most people fail.
Right.
Most people are gonna be like, get out of here, right? My bad.
No, you're good.
You get accepted to that, right?
Yeah.
How did this translate into, hey, I'm going to start Give Send Go? How does this like this timeline that you're talking about
Yeah.
seems like it's worlds apart? How does the or does the cryptology information help you going into Give Send Go?
Yeah, I think all of your life experiences help form your future decisions, and so there's definitely an element of the experience that I had in the Navy, the education, the fortitude, all of the discipline, the things that I went through that helped this shape the success of Give Send Go in that journey. I
Right.
will say that I really believe that the genesis of Give Send Go was a moment when I was 7 years old, and it was my parents, like I said, brought me up in a Christian upbringing. And I went to uh, a tent revival meeting for this guy named Billy Graham. Some of you might know the name. He's a big name of the last century
Mm,
evangelist. And I went
mm,
there and I saw something really, one, I saw a guy that was really gifted in his ability to communicate.
mm,
And he conveyed truth in such a powerful way. I saw a response from people that was so incredible. I saw people infused with hope, purpose,
mm,
and meaning in their lives. And as a young child, 7 years old, I walked away from that meeting imparted with some vision of really impacting the world. I saw this guy
mm,
doing impacting so many people, thousands of people there. And I said, as I went to sleep that night, it's very vivid. I actually said to God in my prayer that night as a kid, God, I want to be like that. I want to have that type of impact.
mm,
And something happened inside of me as a child where that vision was so imparted into my spirit and my soul that I lived from that moment on with a expectation that my
mm,
life was going to have some impact. And so I was working it out, just trying to figure out. And so part of the reason why I joined the military was because Bible college didn't work out. The other college I had been going to weren't working out. And I'm like, I'm getting stuck in my hometown. I got to
mm,
break free from here. How do I break free? Because I've got this big vision inside of me. And the only thing that I knew at the time that would help do that was, well, join the military, see the world. That's
mm,
what they said. Join the
mm.
military,
Okay.
see the world. I'm like, well, this is the opportunity to just be broken out of this hometown, small town mentality. So the Navy was that step that pushed me. That getting out, I still was in this place wrestling through, okay, God, what do you want to do with my life? I had
Mm,
business aptitude skills. I had my background in the military and a top secret clearance and all these different things. And I sat there, I was doing real estate, I was living in Virginia, and I was just kind of still engaged, but trying to figure out, I was finding success in real estate. And then I came back home to New Hampshire for a family get together. It's this time of year, actually, in
mm,
2013, 11 years ago, because it was Thanksgiving. It was right after Thanksgiving.
mm.
And sat down with some siblings, and we just started talking about how so many people that we knew were using I say go F me because that's
Yeah.
what they do to so many
Yeah.
customers.
They do.
Uh, um, so many people were using that platform for their fundraising efforts, and it was great. It was this new form of fundraising on the backs of the rise of social media, everyone being connected online. And I looked at that and I was like, all of a sudden something resonated inside of me. It was like, this is a way that we can, because what GoFundMe was doing at that moment was they were bringing community together, but it was all about money. That's all it was about. Because
Mm, mm,
GoFundMe, even in the name, and we've kind of said this over the past several years, it's like it's very narcissistic in its name. It's all about me. It really
Mm,
played into uh, a, a cultural moment that was more toxic than good. As much as what they were doing was
mm,
good, it was very self-centered. And what
mm,
I realize and know to be true is that self-centeredness actually leads us to death. It's
mm,
self-sacrifice that leads us to life. And so
mm,
and so in that journey, it was at that moment, it was like, well, GoFundMe's doing this cool thing, but it actually needs to be, it needs to be less about me and more about what you can do to impact other people and sharing hope that you have and sharing purpose for them in what you have. And as a Christian, we believe that that was found in Jesus and the hope that he
yeah,
brings. And so we said, well, let's build a platform that actually it's not just about the money, but it also is about sharing hope in difficult moments. And so that was the genesis of Give Send Go at the end of 2013, beginning of 2014. Of
mm,
let's build a platform, community can come together, they can fundraise, but not just be about the money,
yeah.
also be about sharing hope with people. And that's where it started to turn. And then from 2014 to 2020, it was just grind. Like anyone that's tried to ever do something is grind, you know?
Man, when I tell you I was introduced to Give Send Go, it was briefly before the COVID situation and the trucking situation.
Right,
And I remember thinking something similar. I was like, because I'm a wordsmith. So I was like, GoFundMe sounded so go, go, fund me. Right. And I was like, man, that's kind of crazy. But I chalked it in my mind to me being a wordsmith and just kind of like poking fun at the thing and whatever. And it just was like a passing moment, like a little light joke.
right,
Then the COVID overreach started to happen. And, I think so many people don't remember. Listen, if
right.
you want to take a jab, take a jab. If that's what you want to do, it's your body, right?
Completely.
You got to
Right.
deal with what you got to deal with, right? But
Right.
it was not a feeling of we get to make this decision for ourselves. It felt
No.
very draconian.
Oh,
And when the
yeah.
truckers were just like, no, we're gonna kind of protest against this. And I remember them going, mind you, at that time we had raised a little under $500,000 because I wanted something that was transparent. And at
Mm.
the time, that was the only thing that I was aware of.
Right.
And I just wanted something easy that people could support and we could give the stuff away to other people and blah blah blah. And I remember when that happened and they froze like $13 million or some really crazy number.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I mean? I just was like, and then they were gonna, then they said, we're gonna pick where we want the money to go. Like
Man.
the
Yes.
money that you guys gave to these truckers in opposition to this overreach, it was
Right.
like the weirdest level of authoritarian corporate slash
Crazy.
overreaching. Yeah.
Absolute
And so
craziness.
I from a principled perspective, I'm currently getting more involved back with God. I struggled
Mm.
with this concept of God for a very long time.
Mm.
You know, was raised Christian, but when you see so much death and
Right.
pain, it quite naturally, maybe not everybody, but I started to question things like, yo,
Sure.
why is he playing it this way? Like what's going on? I remember one more specific time, and I won't go too far on a sidebar. One of my friends got shot in the head, and I had to hold
Mm.
his head together, like literally. And
Mm.
I remember the shade of the brain matter.
Wow.
I remember everything. And I just couldn't, that concept, I was struggling with it. And so more recently,
Mm.
I've been really, really dialing back in, especially in dealing with firearms, and we are protectors. And,
Right.
I'm like the nicest person in the world. People on the internet think I'm super mean, but I'm like, bro, I'm like the happiest person ever. My point in saying that though was,
It shines. Yeah.
yeah, I remember thinking principally, we cannot continue with this platform.
Mm.
And everybody was like, bro, you're so close to the 500,000. And I was like, so
Doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? And that concept of it cannot be driven solely by the money,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know?
You got to have principle. You got to have things. I mean, Jesus actually dialed that down. He said, ultimately, you you can't serve two masters, God or money. Like is really this like boiled it down to where our basic instinct oftentimes resides. And for
Mm,
Give Send Go, it was, hey, it's this isn't just a money thing. It's actually that's just a tool that is
mm,
used to help accomplish what we need to accomplish. But there's something so much greater than that. And if it's all about the money, man, you're going to find that leaves you broken and empty and everything
mm,
else, because that's what things of this world do. They leave you
mm,
broken and empty and disillusioned. And the things that are immaterial, the things that are eternal, they actually carry us beyond
mm.
our circumstances and just the frailty of the reality of this world. And I think that's what you were tapping into, is that there are things greater than just this material reality that we exist in. there
Yeah,
are there are eternal truths. There are fundamental truths that exist beyond this. And that's so important for people to recognize. And that's what we say all the time. It's like no amount of money that you give to someone will bring a child back from the dead. Like someone creates a fundraising campaign and they need, so they just had a tragedy in their life and they lost a child. You can give them all the money in the world. There's still a lot of brokenness. There's still a lot of
yeah,
pain. There's still a lot of hurt.
yeah,
And no amount of, they would give all that money back in a heartbeat for their
yeah,
child back. And
yeah,
so it's not just about the money. Yeah, the money's good. It is necessary, but it's bigger than that. It needs to be bigger than that. It can't just be about the money. And and so that's what we try. That's why we do some of the stuff that we do, which is like we have a pray button where the other sites don't have that, because we believe that there's there's life in the things that we can say, and that people can
mm,
uplift each other. And we know this. Like if you encourage, this is like you encourage, instill courage. You can use the words that you have to actually lift people up, or you can use
mm,
it to tear people down. But
yeah,
we recognize that there's power and there's value in just the things that we say. They shape our world. They shape our relationships. Speak life into people. So we put that button there so that people could do that, so that people could encourage. We hired a prayer team at GiveSendGo so they could call campaign owners and pray with them. So now, as campaigns come on to GiveSendGo, they actually get a call from our prayer team, and we actively just pray with them and speak
yeah,
life and say, "Hey, we're lifting you up. We care about you." And people are blown away by that. We've now expanded that prayer team. At first, it was just in the U.S. Now we call Canadian campaigns in the UK, and campaigns in Australia. So it's expanding. We're just continuing to further the recognition that, yeah, money is important. It's something that we need to help when critical times happen. But we got to do more. We got to share hope with people and speak
yeah.
life into their situation.
Here's the thing: you do that. You guys, everybody, like it almost seemed like a seismic shift that everybody was like, "We're going to give Singo." Like it's like almost at the same time, the thought that I had, a bunch of people were like, "Yeah, we can't do this. That's not cool, man." Which means they probably already had a inkling of that feeling about that platform in their heart already. So I'm a conspiracy theorist to a degree. So my brain was like, they're crashing the Give Send Go site. I remember that, and because I was like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know if it was the deep state attempting to deliberately, and I didn't know you were a cryptologist, so maybe you could shed some light on this, right?
Right.
My brain went to, oh, so as soon as everybody's like, nope, we're not using this platform. We're going to the one that are going to allow people their freedom to choose where they
Right.
direct their resources and support. Oh, now magically, oh, these things are down. Is that just me in my 007 head, like in my brain,
Oh
or?
no, no. Listen, the more and more I live life, the more I see there's fewer coincidences. It's just not accidents. It's like this stuff is as intentional as can be. And what we saw in that moment was a massive coordinated attack against our platform, just
Mm,
from all over the world, from bots, they call it DDoS attacks, uh,
mm,
denial of service attacks, where they're just overwhelming your servers. Now you have real traffic, people trying to give, people trying to support what was going on, but then you just had massive amounts of traffic trying to overwhelm our servers to prevent that, and then coordinated attacks to try to hack and break us down. And it was very orchestrated, and it actually played right into what I wouldn't even call it like Trudeau and the Canadian government, um, democratic, or even like, they are so far gone as far
Mm,
as the choices that they've chose. What they chose to do in that moment, the Emergency Orders Act, was completely totalitarian. It
right.
was, we're going to freeze your bank accounts, we are going to stop you out, we're going to prevent you from paying your mortgage payments, we're going to prevent you from buying food for your kids. Like, that's literally what they did.
Right.
They
Yeah.
locked people's accounts up. It was crazy. But what they did in the attack, actually, there was a guy that Aubrey Cottle was his name, and he came out online saying he was uh, a chief architect behind the attack on our platform. and
Wow.
and just a brief due diligence into finding out the background of this guy was, he was one of the chief players in the anonymous group, and he
Mm,
had ties himself directly to Canadian intelligence and government agencies and doing their bidding. So there were all sorts of things at play in this, that were not just, oh, some people were just upset. No, there was coordinated attacks, because there are state actors that do not like that Western society still have or try to promote freedom of speech, freedom
right.
of protest, freedom of things that are contrary to their objective to just rule over people.
Right.
Yeah.
How did y'all bounce back from it? Because that's something that, like, I remember when my page went down. Mind you, I want to say to everybody, we've been on Give Send Go since 2020. Our strategy was, we'll raise the money, we'll give it away, we'll do, hey guys, we're trying to raise 10,000 to do these 2 or 3 cities, right? So it
Yeah.
was always going to be a long-term play. It was never, initially it wasn't on the other platform. People just kept asking us to keep going. And then after a while, when we were off that one, everybody unanimously was like, dude, do another 500,000. I don't mean you guys made $1 million. You gave it away. Imagine the story. And I was like, okay, cool, right?
Yeah.
But in 4 going on 5 years now, we've never had a problem. Maybe once, like, something happened and out, like, recently, and I was like, yo, Jacob, just letting you know, da 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 da. And you're like, all right, cool. The team got immediately on it.
Right.
How were you guys able to bounce back from such a coordinated attack? And do
Right.
you think that this is something that is may potentially be ongoing, or was it that just something kind of for that moment because they were really playing their hand there?
Yeah, no. So one, how we bounce back is, what's really cool is, in that moments where authoritarian, totalitarian, you know, dictators like Trudeau, they play their cards. What happens is, the veil, it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz, like the veil's pulled back and you see the guy behind the curtain,
For
and all
sure.
of a sudden people's eyes are open to the reality of what's going on. And so what that does is, it actually emboldens people to say, hey, I want to get in this fight. I want to actually come alongside organizations like Give Send Go and try to support them. So what we saw in that moment was a whole host of people from all over the place coming and reaching out and saying, "Hey, how can we support you? How can we build you up so that this never happens again? So that you
Mm,
guys are better than ever." And we took advantage of a lot of that. We brought in some top notch contractors and technologists to help bolster the platform. We got off some of the mainstream, like, servers a lot
mm,
of people use. We bought our own servers. We have our own
mm,
infrastructure so that we can't be taken down on that level. We just started putting a lot of things in place, because we recognize, well, these are real threats. You can see them. The
yeah,
veil's been torn back. We say this, we don't want to be parlored. You got to remember what happened to
right,
Parlor. It was
right,
like a coordinated attack by all these big, massive tech companies to strip them of the momentum that they had. And we're like, no, we're going to think through this. And thankfully, a lot of people reached out. We got our feet underneath. We've grown the team significantly, and then we've put systems in place to help prevent that. But is it stopping? No, sometimes it just shifts. They take advantage of those high, you know tension political moments, and they play their hand one way. But when those moments aren't necessarily happening, like kind of now potentially, what they do is they coordinate the lawfare against us. I don't. People don't realize
Mm.
that at least once a month we're getting warrants and subpoenas from the Department of Justice, from government agencies, saying, "Hey, um, we want you to disclose all of the givers to this campaign or to this campaign," and we say, "No, we're not going to do this." We push back. Like, sorry, you're not. You don't just have a blank ticket. And what? But I think where I was going was that, yeah, there's a technology, there's a shift of the attack. At one point, it was, well, let's utilize this big political moment in this campaign to coordinate an actual computer DDoS attack and try to go after it that way. And then when that dies down and that scenario has moved on, it's like, well, how can we still go after them? Well, we're gonna bring them in front of Congress, and we're gonna bring them in front of Parliament, and we're gonna paint them as the narrative that they want to paint, which, if you've read the articles that are out there about us, they paint us as these horrible people. And we love people. We love people from every perspective. Like,
Right.
we're the furthest thing from hateful or anything type of people. I love people that disagree with me, because that's the only way that I get stronger. This is the only way that I get smarter. Like, is engaging with people that I disagree with. And not just so that I can sit in my bubble and learn the arguments again, but so that I can truthfully hear you, because I know, and this is the fundamental truth of the need for God in society. It gives us a recognition that we're not God. Because if there is no God, then we become God. And if we become
Mm.
God, all of a sudden we're omniscient and we're prideful because we know everything. But when God is
Mm.
in the picture, it resets us to a place of saying, well, no, I don't know everything. And I actually can have a conversation with you because I know I don't know everything. So um, that's a basis for how we ground ourselves. But yeah, you can read. There's that element of the attack too. I mean, we get hit pieces against us all the time. We had the ADL, Anti Defamation League, defame us. They literally just came out and defamed us a couple weeks ago. I just talked with our attorney a couple days ago. We're actually going to go after them because you, we have to turn the tide. We can't
Yeah.
just let them run with a blank check of doing whatever they want, thinking they can say whatever. But the moment we say something, oh, they throw a lawsuit at us or whatever. We're dealing with a lawsuit from that whole trucker thing in Canada, a $300 million lawsuit against GiveSendGo, still ongoing, that we're defending. It's just lawfare. But we have to turn the tables. We've got to go back and push it back against them, change the narrative, let our story be louder. We're not the people that they try to make us out to be. We love people. We don't want people to be canceled. We believe that dialogue and discussion is the greatest
Right.
method to move society forward, not shutting people down.
Right.
So, yeah,
Bro, it's for folks that may not know, I don't know if you remember where we first met, and you actually came up to me,
yeah,
and I
I
was
think I
like,
remember.
yeah, and I can't remember where it was, but I remember the interaction. And I remember you coming up. It might have been something Second Amendment. It was some event. It might have been CPAC. It was something along those
Was
lines.
it in Vegas at the Freedom? Were you in that,
Freedom
like, at the
Fest.
Freedom Fest? Yeah,
It was
yeah,
Freedom Fest. And
yeah,
I remember, I a lot of my life has been predicated upon me reading the room and like that's dangerous, that's cool, that person's awesome, that energy's right. And I remember you were like, "Hey, I'm Jacob, da 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 da," and I remember being excited because I didn't know who you were at that time, but
mm,
I remember being excited for two reasons. One, I thought, man, this person that does this platform is not like an invisible person. And then two, it was three things. Two, I was like, man, that dude's got good energy. And then the third thing that I thought was he's involved seriously because he remembers me, one of the bajillion people that are on this platform. And
mm,
I just took, and then we exchanged numbers. And I try never to bother anybody unless I have something to offer them. I try not to, whatever. But I always wanted to make sure the story was told because I also remember thinking, or at least on my platform, I'll say, I also remember thinking, man, this gentleman and his team and his family have created something and even though I was still struggling with this concept then, and
mm.
not struggling in the sense of anti, but struggling in the sense of what's going on, bro? Like what is happening, right? Um,
Right.
I remember thinking, this gentleman has created something that is a safe haven for people that have the value system that I have. And
Mm,
we got a lot of service, a lot of work done doing the work that we do. And having a platform to easily shift onto that was more in alignment with what we were about, we would not have been Black Guns Matter is cited in the Supreme Court Bruin decision. We
wow.
would not be support we wouldn't be. It would not be there. It would not be there if we were not doing this work. And that was in 2022. At that time, we were on consistently on Give Send Go for about 2 years at that point. And I just
Mm,
remember thinking that, like, man, I don't know if this brother knows fully what he's actually created,
mm.
and I sometimes we just don't in the beginning. Like I sometimes don't with BGM. People will hit me up and be like, "Yo, man, I made $100,000 last year. It was the best year I ever had. I only worked at Walmart before. I came to your first class 7 years ago, and now I'm a firearms instructor. And I cleared my first six-figure year, and with so many
Incredible.
people are so, you know what I mean?
That's
And
so
so
awesome. Yeah.
it is. It really is. Um, how, I think this is a cool spot to wrap up, but I really want, if you could, to kind of like give the people your ethos, the
Mm,
ethos of the company, how you've been able to sustain, and
yeah.
just what you'd say to someone listening, even outside of just the company.
Yeah.
Somebody's ear needs to hear what you're going to say at this moment. What advice, prospective entrepreneurs, people in opposite, like being opposed by the state, because that's in essence what Give Send Go is. They have been and are. What
Right.
would you say to those folks and kind of like give them some motivation and some inspiration?
Yeah, I think first off, just as an encouragement, because I like to encourage people, instill courage into their situation, but is to let everyone know that you are valuable, and that there's purpose over your life. I don't, people come from all different walks, backgrounds, upbringings, and I think we live in a moment in culture where people don't hear the value that they have often enough. They're just kind of pushed and relegated to their situation, and they don't realize that there is a God that loves them, and loves them so much that was willing to die for them, but also has plans for them. One of my favorite verses is in Ephesians 2, chapter 2, and it says that you were created by God in Christ Jesus for good works, which He planned beforehand for you to
Mm,
work to walk in. It's like He has things that He wants you to do. So one, when you recognize that, you can say, "Well, man, I can be confident because it's not even my work; it's His work
mm,
in me." It's His
mm,
work in me. It's like I don't. What do I have to? Why do I don't? I sleep soundly every single night, even though I have a $300 million lawsuit against me personally and my company. And the
mm,
reason why is because I realize, wait a second, this isn't about me. This is about a God that's in control, that loves you.
mm,
He gives you hope. He gives you purpose. He gives you courage in the moment. And then another piece of advice that was just really helpful to me in my journey, or what I was able to do, was I had around me a good group of people. Man, you got to surround yourself with the right people. Um, it's easy to just get caught up being around people that make your life easy, and it's not the easy things that push you ahead, it's the hard things that push you ahead. So you get around the right people, and the right people are the ones that are willing to actually speak the hard truths into your life and your situation. And so if you just find yourself around yes men, yes, people that are going to agree with everything and just go along with it, find some new people to surround yourself with, because they're going to
mm,
keep you accountable. They're going to push you forward. Our mission at Give Send Go is very clear. We have it. Every single person on our team knows this. Our mission is to share the hope of Jesus through crowdfunding. That's our mission statement.
mm,
And it's just a statement that says we want to give and instill something bigger than what you find happening in your life, because you can't get bigger than the hope of Jesus. If Jesus is true and He's real, and I 100% believe that, then there's
mm,
nothing bigger than that. that
mm,
that God laid Himself down for the sake of you. You can't get bigger than that. So our desire is to share that with you, and still that make everything that we do about revealing that to you however we can. So we do everything that we do at GiveSendGo around that purpose. Does it align with that purpose? And then our vision statement is to be the global leader. We don't want to be second place to these other platforms that think it's the way to go is canceling people, shutting people down. I mean, I have a crazy story. I'm not going to go into it because it's a little bit longer, of somebody that did commit suicide because they were shut off of all of the other platforms. They were canceled, and they put and this person was a military veteran, served his country, was a business owner. He put a gun in his mouth and he blew his head off because he had been canceled by GoFundMe, because he was canceled by Facebook, all of these platforms. And I saw that as a military veteran. I'm never going to let that happen. People need hope, even if I disagree with them. We're going to not cancel people, because people need to realize that they are valuable beyond even what they think. Like they are
Yeah.
stamped with the image of God. So those are the things about who gives it. We're going great places. We one final thing that I think is amazing. For some reason in our journey, one of the reasons why a lot of other tech companies get pulled into the censorship game is that they're owned by venture capitalists. They're owned by money from other institutions, and they pull the strings on what can and can't happen. However it happened, my sister and I were able to never have to borrow money to get to where we are. So we own the company 50-50. Nobody makes decisions except us on what we do. And so you may be like, that's a real hesitation with these other platforms. Like, hey, I
Yeah.
might get pulled down because somebody else is telling them what they can and can't do. At Give,
Yeah.
Send, Go, it's us. And we make our decisions based upon those values that I've espoused to you. So it's a safe place at GiveSendGo. We are tolerant. We actually embody the credo of the left that says tolerance and acceptance and all. We actually live that out. We don't just say it. We
Right.
actually live it out, because they are values that are valuable. Which is like, no, I need to actually engage with people I disagree. All those different things that I said. So I hope that instills some courage people to walk out their journey with boldness and make a difference in the world, in their relationships and whatever they have in front of them.
Jacob, I want to say thank you, my brother, because everybody, solutionaries, I want y'all to go find awesome causes to support on GiveSendGo. I'm not even saying it has to be our solutionary center. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you just scroll and see the things that you will find, like it's almost like you spin the globe and stop the globe, and it's something really, really dope and awesome that your finger lands on. And so I want everybody to make sure that you're supporting that. I thought it was very important to make sure that we had Jacob on to have this conversation about this serious thing. This isn't just about the money for the fish fry, the money for the kids' presents. It is the underlying theme that is the connecting energy. In quantum physics, they call that the Planck scale, the
Yeah,
underneath thing that we're all made of. And I think
right.
this is the real key that I want everybody to make sure that you're supporting. And I don't care, guys, if it's $10, if it's $5, just once a month, just randomly spin the globe, point a finger. If it aligns with your value system, support people. That's what the platform is about. And I wanted to say thank you again to Jacob. You know, brother, you didn't hesitate. I'm like, yo, bro, can I interview you? And you're like, yeah. And then I dropped the ball and was like, oh, my bad, bro. And so just thank you so much for creating something so wonderful that has touched so many people's lives. And I can attest to that. If I've taught tens of thousands of people individually, right, in the last 3 years,
Mm.
and those people have went on to do that. You guys have created something that's a positive force multiplier, and not enough good can be said for it. And I just want to make sure I give you your flowers, my brother, you and your sister and
Uh,
the entire team.
Thank you so much, man. And it has been great knowing you. I'm sure we will run into each other again in the future. Looking forward to it. If you're ever up in Massachusetts, New England area, make sure you hit me up. We can hang out in person.
I will, absolutely. Thank you for tapping in, y'all. I appreciate you, bro. All right,
Yes,
peace.
same.
All right,
Peace.
peace.